I love a lot of games, and in this theory I tell you why. Today we're taking a look at Eldritch Horror. Now Eldritch Horror always makes me laugh because I remember very specifically Eldritch Horror is kind of it's a game that's built upon the framework and has a lot of similarities to Arkham Horror. And when Eldritch Horror first came out, they announced at Fantasy Flight, they said, oh, there's not going to be as many expansions as there was for Arkham Horror. It will not get as big and grandiose as those games. Well, it did, and they have as many. Now, the game is not as sprawling on the table as Arkham Horror is, and it is more focused, and I really like it better than Arkham Horror. Why? Eldritch Horror uses the framework of Cthulhu. I've never been the biggest of Cthulhu fans. I don't really understand why people want to worship a giant squid beast coming out of the ocean, and it seems like he would destroy everybody. And horror itself, I don't watch horror movies, I don't read horror books normally. I get scared easily. And yet Eldritch Horror kind of offset that for me. Even though Cthulhu's in it, and even though this is a long game, really, I still have a blast playing it. And each time they release a new expansion, I'm excited to see the new stuff that it adds and the new weapons and everything else involved. Why do I love Eldritch Horror? Well, first of all, I think part of it is because it's open-ended and yet has goals. By that I mean, when you're fighting one of these great ancient these big beasts, you can go anywhere. You can go here. I can grab tickets. I can go over here. I can go explore in the city. I can go the opposite direction. I can go fight a monster over here. You really shouldn't do anything you want. You really should try to focus on goals. And the game has very clear goals. Here's some clues. Go get those clues. There's some gates. Go shut down those gates. Here is something you must do to stop this ancient one. Do it. But how you get there, there's really a lot of options. And you can talk about those options with everybody. So everyone's talking about them and saying you should do this and you should do that. And I like that open-ended world that the game has. It has some really unique characters. They're flawed characters. They're characters that are going to be probably weak at something. There's no character who walks in like a tank and can do whatever they want. Or if they can walk in like a tank, then they probably are immune psychologically to the monsters or get scared easily. And I like that. Every character has their unique uses. And if one of your characters dies over the course of the game, which is very possible, and I also love how a dead character integrates into the story itself, you get another character and keep going. And I found that was enjoyable. The game is strange, right? It has these strange things when you go and you find this and it's like there's something on the mantle. And the writing is well done. There's a lot of games where it's like, you find this, what do you do, A or B? Here, you feel the theme of the game comes through. And while I'm not a big fan of horror and such, here it's a little spooky. And it works. I'm not sitting there going, but at the same time, I'm like, ooh, what is that? What did I go a little mad there? And the choices you have, I really like that the choices, when you get to cards, you can decide whether you will attempt a test or not. When you get to a monster, you can try to evade that monster or fight that monster, or where will you go on the board. And I like a game that gives me a lot of choices like that. The art presentation is really well done. They certainly have reused some artwork at the beginning, but as they add more and more expansions, they're really going into some new and unique areas, and the artwork has a nice noir feeling to it, 1920s era style, maybe it's the 30s or 40s, but I like that. And the whole board, the presentation, the chips and everything. Now, this is not a box full of miniatures. I may have added miniatures to mine, but you don't need to, and I think the game works despite not having all those miniatures. And that's because of one reason. Why do I like this game more than Arkham Horror? Because they are similar in a lot of ways. There's the tests that you roll, and you have guns and things and weapons and spells. But I like this one because it has more of a feeling of adventure. Sure, you're fighting Cthulhu-esque and zombies and leopard-headed men and giant spiders, but it feels like an Indiana Jones thing. You're globetrotting, going around the world, going to strange and unique places, going into pyramids, going to Antarctica. I love that sort of thing, that adventure. There's a sense of doom. The guy you're fighting is not some minor villain. This is an entity intent on destroying the Earth. In fact, there's one that if you don't destroy him fast enough, he does destroy the Earth. This huge thing that you then sometimes have to come fight face to face. But hopefully you can figure out a way to seal it. And the game comes down to usually some big confrontation. And when you win the game, which doesn't happen often, but it does, I beat the game, the sense of accomplishment is great. It is wonderful and a lot of fun. And the story works too. Arkham Horror and other games, you go around, what's this? We'll find this, and random things happen. And Eldritch Horror does a good job at having those random events that happen all over the place, and yet manages to fit kind of a cohesive story into the mix too. Oh, I see this. Oh, that's because that works with that great ancient one. And the ancient ones kind of have their fingers or tentacles or whatever they are throughout the story, and it comes together really well. And I remember my games. I remember things that happened. I remember when this person died. I remember when someone went head-to-head with a giant spider or whatever. The stories that the game gives. Eldritch Horror is just pure fun. I think the game is actually best with 3 or 4 players. And I think the game is best when you don't add in too much of the extra stuff, although there is a lot of fun extra stuff to add into it. And it is an epic game, but epic games are often really fun and interesting. I love this game, and that's why Eldritch Horror. I'm Tom Vasel. You've been watching The Dice Tower. See you next time.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.